Okay, guys, how's it going? Tech and Dad here. How's everybody doing? So I'm doing a slightly different thing about this channel, and I'm going to change its course a little bit. I know my name is Tech and Dad, which means that I'm a technology person that's always looking towards recording videos about technology, and I'm a dad. I'm showing what it's like to have technology go into my life and make it all better. That's kind of what Tech and Dad was always all about. But now I'm gonna do something, a little something that I kind of have always wanted to do, but I want to try to test out the waters and see how it does and how it's received by the YouTube community. I want to see how people would actually look at this, and maybe they'll even enjoy it, and then they'll subscribe, and they'll also see what else is available. So this is another little hobby that I've always been into. Been into this hobby for years. It's called knife collecting. This is a knife. Now, why do grown men carry knives? We are not in the Boy Scouts. Why in the world would a grown man carry a knife? It's more about utility. It's about design. It's about the ability to have something in your hand that actually functions very well. It's about engineering. It's about the steels that are on the knife. It is about the exclusivity of having it. So it kind of almost makes no sense why someone would need to carry a knife in 2022, because principally, what do we need to cut? Well, the weirdest thing is we always need to cut something. I remember my first foray into any kind of a knife was something like, ooh, I'm trying to find where that darn thing is. It's not where it's supposed to be. Hang on one second. I know where it is. Yeah, here it is. So my first foray into a knife was that. I remember being in graduate school, and my research advisor had one of these. I'm in the laboratory trying to make some chemistry happen, literally, because I was a chemist. And I'm like, what is that thing? That thing is so amazing. It does so many different things. This is the Leatherman Wave. The Leatherman Wave is a wrench. So you're able to take this and turn stuff. And also on this wave, you have all these little different attachments. You can actually cut things. You could actually, what else can you do? You can unscrew things if you need to. You can poke something, I don't know, someone's getting in your way, you just poke something. It has a knife on it. It's got a bottle opener. You can cut things with this. You can file something down if you wanted to. That's just a Leatherman Wave, right? $50 to $60 little multi-tool. Leatherman, right? That's what Leatherman pretty much is known for. I think Leatherman, he took this into some kind of a trip in France, and he just had his little wrench. He was able to take his very rudimentary Leatherman multi-tool and, fix his car and do X, Y, and Z with it. It was a very useful thing to have. It just accentuates a man's ability, or maybe a person's ability, to be able to fix stuff very quickly. So it starts here. Starts with a Leatherman Wave. Then it goes to something like, okay, so this is a nice little thing. It's got a nice little knife on it. What else do we have here? So the next thing we'll go to is something which is a little smaller. It'll go to, I wonder what a single blade looks like. So let me just put this right here, put this right here. What does a single blade look like? So here is an Emerson CQC8. It's a very old one. I've had this one for probably about 10 years. It's extremely old. And it's just like a nice little device. It's able to cut stuff. So it just cuts stuff as it needs to be cut. So, this is actually a nice knife. I learned the story of the knife because all these things have stories, right? Leatherman had a story. This was a story here. You had the trip in France was right here. Here's Emerson's story. Ernie Emerson's a person who He actually makes knives for the Navy SEALs. So when Navy SEALs go on actual deployments, they give them these types of knives in order to defend themselves. These are secondary knives that the Navy SEALs use. So what Ernie Emerson does, he actually goes to the Navy SEALs and teaches them combat. I'm like, wow, this is a nice knife. So, of course, about maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I bought this knife, and it was, pretty nice and interesting to have. Then, of course, this will turn into this knife. Another Emerson knife. This is called a CQC8. This is the actual knife that the SEALs are using right now. And one thing you'll notice about this this CQC8 is that it's only sharpened on one edge. So this edge is not sharpened at all. It's actually nice and flat. This edge is chiseled. So this is now called a chisel grind, which means that all of Emerson's knives are pretty much only sharpened on one edge or one side. And that's what gives a very nice and sharp edge on this knife. It's called a chisel grind. But it's a nice knife. I'm like, hey, the Navy SEALs can use this. I can use this too. So you put it in your pocket and you just keep walking around with it. Everything's fine. It's not about defense at all. It's just about kind of like almost a fashion thing for men or for people who like knives. It's a fashion thing. That's all it is. So you'll go from your Emerson, which is this one, and then you start moving up to a Benchmade. Benchmades are, production knives. What a production knife is just a knife that pretty much you make in a factory. They make 10 to 15,000 of these. They sell them. They give them to knife stores, and you can just buy this in any gun shop or buy it online on Amazon or buy it in any other type of knife store that's available. It's a nice little Benchmade here. Benchmade has a wonderful reputation for making pretty good knives. They have wonderful locks which are available. These are called the Axis lock. That's what Benchmade will use for most of its knives. They had a patent on Axis knives for the longest time. The patent expired on them. And so there are lots of other companies that are using this way, this robust way of keeping that blade locked in place so it's not going to come up and hurt somebody on the finger or, come out of place whenever you're hitting something with the knife. So this is what a Benchmade looks like. It actually feels cool. Actually, I saw this on the internet about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I noticed one thing about it was that it just looks so nice and cool. And at the time, I could not get a Hinderer type of knife. I'll talk about Hinderers in a little bit. So this knife was my substitute for buying a Hinderer. So I got this. And I was very happy with it. It would go in my pocket, and I would just, have it in my pocket, and I'm ready to go. It feels great. It flips wonderfully. It's, I think it's a 3.8-inch knife. So it's actually pretty nice. It's a pretty nice knife to have in your pocket as you're walking down the street. So after the Benchmade, I started finding another knife. I have a problem with knives, don't I? Yes, I do. So I found this other knife, which was on Amazon by this company called Zero Tolerance. So Zero Tolerance is a company that makes, I would say, discount knives or discounted knives. So the Benchmade led to this, which is a knife that can be used to cut things, and it's actually a very sharp knife. It's got wonderful blade steels, and I'll talk about blade steels more in a little bit. And this is based off of a designer's name, a designer by the name of Hinderer, Rick Hinderer. And again, every knife has a story. So Rick Hinderer was an EMT person who was trying to find a knife that was stable enough to hold up to lots of action and lots of problems that he needed to solve with a knife. And one thing about knives is that if your lock bar If you're like under pressure, your lock bar is going to be pushed all the way to the side here or pushed all the way to the side there. And then if that's the case, then there's no way to keep the blade in lock with the handle. And so it cannot be deployed. So what Hinderer did was he made a design so that it is not possible for this little part that releases the knife to be bent out of position, so that the knife is always useful under most situations where you have lots of adrenaline that's happening. So you're not going to break your knife, and you're able to cut things as you need to under pressure situations. So this is actually a replica of one of Hinderer's designs called an Eclipse, and this is what he worked with zero tolerance, or ZT, in order to make this knife here. It's a Hinderer design. So this knife is actually pretty nice. Wonderful blade steel at 20 CV. This is a great little knife here. So what is next? So what's next? This knife here will then lead to that knife right there. Right there. This is an actual Hinderer. This is made in his little shop that's in Shreve, Ohio. And this knife is amazing. It runs on bearings. Well, actually, this knife runs on bearings too. They're both on bearings. But this knife is an actual Hinderer. This is a copy that is, well, not a copy, but it's actually a collaboration with Zero Tolerance. This is M390 steel, which is actually great steel. This is going to be your 20 CV steel. They're both virtually the same types of steels. But the thing about Hinderer's actual creations is that they're so, you can actually modify them in so many different ways. You can actually change the actual handle. You can change the hardware on it for whatever color that you may want. You can change the lock bars, the standoffs that are on here. You can change the pivot if you wanted to. You can change the little tab that's right here. You can change the position of where the clip is. And you can't really do that on here. This is not really going to be amenable to really be built or changed or really disassembled in any way. This is just the way it is, and you can't really do anything about it. This you can change in a variety of ways. This is cheaper. This is more expensive because there's a lot more you can actually do with this. So then the question becomes, well, why do you have one of these? Like, what's the point of it? The action on this is absolutely phenomenally amazing. I've actually modified this to have skiff bearings in it, and it just runs so great. It's amazing. So the way I'm going to change my channel from now on is I'm going to make this more of a lifestyle type of channel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just talk about everyday things. They don't really have to be about technology. They can involve technological things, such as the blade steels. It can involve, the screen of a device that I like. That's really helping me with the way that I carry out things in my life. It could be, about a watch. It could be about a computer. It could be about anything. So I'm going to broaden my channel to things that I really like to do and not try to pigeonhole myself into an area that it just gets repetitive and redundant and boring. And, I'm kind of tired of doing this and tired of doing that. So I'm going to try to make this more interesting, and I'm going to open this up to more things. So click subscribe, like this content that's here. You're going to see a lot more knife reviews in the future. So, check me out soon. I'm Tekken Dad, and I will talk to you all later. Thanks.